Hey guys, welcome back. This is Donna Sharp with Holistic Wellbeing. Thanks for joining me here on day 479 of doing these lives. As you know, we had been on the topic, speaking from a book Stephen Covey has here, Three Steps to a Strong Family. Most of the focus right now is on our children, although the parents have a lot to do with it. So what was nice is last night we spoke about respecting our children and the importance of understanding that when you draw the line, it's not just the children that should be respecting their parents, but the reverse has to happen as well. Because what that does, it fosters a great relationship between the children and the parents, and it also teaches the children that parents aren't far above making mistakes, all right? They too can make mistakes and they too can learn from situations. So that was nice to speak on yesterday. Tonight I'm going to be speaking on the importance of apologizing. Yes, the importance of apologizing. And let me take that back. I just mentioned to you we spoke on respecting our children. That's not what we spoke on. We spoke on the parents' part. Let me just correct that. Well, we're speaking on apologizing right now. What does that mean? The most important words we can ever say to our children is, I love you, right? I love you. But what also accompanies that? What goes alongside with that is also making sure that they understand that you hear them, okay? When they're saying something to you or they're expressing a thought, a feeling that they have on their heart. And also saying that you're sorry. It's pivotal because we are not often right. And when our children understand that, they get the notion and the clear understanding that, you know, as we mature in life as well, although we are older, we are also prone to mistakes. So apologizing is not a bad thing to do. So I'm going to cover the section from Stephen Covey's book on some of the points that he made. And basically the first one says, how easy is it for you to admit to your children that you're wrong? How often when you see that you did something incorrectly, you followed through with it from beginning to end, and you look back and you say, man, I shouldn't have done that. But do you actually go to your children and say, you know what? I should not have done that. I'm so sorry. And you actually apologize to them. Well, it's not often that that takes place. The effects that often happens is that it limits the communication and the trust between you and your children. If there are many times that you did something and did not apologize to them, and you see that that should have taken place, then in their mind, if they see that's happened 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and you haven't apologized, they see that it now becomes a pattern. And so for them, the loss of connection is there between you and them. So, hi Al, how are you? Welcome. So it's very, very important that when you see that you're making these mistakes, you own up to it. Don't just let it falter through the cracks, because your children are taking mental notes. If they're not taking physical notes, they're taking mental notes. Simple things that we may do, we may think it's not important, but when we're looking at them and they're expecting an apology from us because we went over our limits as parents and did not come and make amends with them, it doesn't sit well with our children. And like I said, when we're communicating with our children, the road that we travel together is super important, because it should never be a one-way street between you and your children. You want to foster what we call a relationship, not a dictatorship. We spoke about that several nights ago, because this is probably about a week and a half now I've been on the subject of fostering a good relationship with your children. So we spoke about limiting the good. Spoke about limiting the distancing we have between our children by creating the bond and lacking the democracy that we have to say, you do this because I said so. I don't know if you remember a couple nights ago, I said to you guys, you can never tell your child, you say, you do this because I said so. But who are we? You know, as I mentioned, we are adults still growing. So how are we expect them to have all the answers? So it's okay to apologize and own up to it. Some examples of wrongdoings by parents. Here's one of them: making a mistake, right? Now you make a mistake on something. I don't know. Maybe you made a promise to them and say, listen, you can go to the movies tonight if you clean up your room. And you go back, they clean up their room, and then you got angry over something else that they didn't do, and it may be in another section of the house. So now you're caught up into your emotions. You forgot the promise you made to your child, And guess what? Now you're telling them you're not going to the movies. Now they're looking at you saying, well, but you promised. You said if I did cleaned up my room, I would be able to go to the movies. But because you're so angry and you're allowing your emotions to get in it, then you have just faltered on your promise to them. And guess what? Now you've lost the trust by your children in you, because you're now operating on your emotions and not being logical about the situation and recognizing the conversation you had with them to begin with. So now they're never going to forget that. So what do? You go back and apologize to them? Now you ban them from going to the movies, so they're not pleased about that. But do you go back the next day and apologize to them, or do you just let it sit and say, you know what, I'm not going to apologize to them. They're just my children. It doesn't matter. Be careful. Be careful of making those mistakes. And again, not following back up and correcting them. The second thing is making sure that you're not blaming the wrong child. If you have more than one children, then one child might have done something incorrect, right? But the first thing is I'm going to ask you is encourage you not to do is to favor one child over the other. I don't know how many children you have, but if one does something and you have, let's say, favoritism for one, and you're going to blame the other one that did something took place, and you're blaming the wrong child, you have to be extremely careful. So it's going to be important that you have those law-abiding conversations that I spoke on, to make sure that when things happen, people have to own up to it, because when they correct each other, when the children are being truthful, then you won't necessarily, the chances of you blaming the wrong one is going to be less. But the second thing is you also have to get all the facts from all of them, so that you are making sure that the correct child is getting reprimanded for what it is that wasn't done. All right? So be careful of not blaming the incorrect child. And the third one is getting angry when you shouldn't have. And that stems back to the first one that I was speaking about. Pretty much something happened and you didn't like the way it took place, because maybe they didn't do it to your satisfaction. And all of a sudden now you're getting upset, and things are not going the way you feel it's supposed to be going. And then maybe you're adding some additional things to that. Maybe things didn't go very well for you at work as a parent, and you're coming home and everything is filtering downhill, right? So you want to make sure that you're not getting angry for any unnecessary reasons, because what's going to happen is, unfortunately, sometimes a child takes the blunt of that. So be very, very cautious and be very careful when you are operating your techniques, okay? So what should parents do? Parents should basically say that you're sorry. It is not an easy thing to do, especially when I had all of the lies on relationship between man and woman. Men don't know how to apologize to women, and vice versa. Women don't know how to apologize to men. Everyone has to be right. And when I spoke on that particular subject several times, I also encourage that when these parents, they go through counseling, the counselor is just happy because they're taking your money, because you two can't rectify the problem you have by saying you're sorry. Well, the same goes for the children. Be very, very careful and be very, very sincere when you are apologizing. Let them know that, mommy and daddy makes mistakes, and I'm so sorry that happened. It shouldn't have. Let's see how we can fix this next time. There's the right and the incorrect way to have those conversations, all right? So what I'm going to do is read you the story, like I always do, from his book, from Stephen Covey's book. So if you're just joining me for the first time, I am speaking from Stephen Covey's book, 3 Steps to a Strong Family. And he has some really good tidbits in here. Hi, Wanda. Thank you for joining. So the story I'm going to read to you will give you a little clear understanding of the topic I'm on, and it will just make a little sense to you, I think. So here we go. So the next day back up a little bit here. I remember years ago when one of our daughters came in well past curfew. I jumped all over her, chewed her out, accused her of insensitivity and irresponsibility, and grounded her. The next day I found out that the reason she was out late was that a friend had hurt herself, and our daughter was trying to help her. I went down to her room intending to apologize. I did get started. I said, I'm sorry. I didn't know, and then the old parental instincts kicked in. But have you ever heard of phones? Couldn't you at least have called so we wouldn't worry? Predictable, she met my renewed anger with sarcasm. Oh, sorry, Dad. I didn't know what I was thinking. I should have told her to just go bleed to death. I have to call my father. It took me until the next night to try again. This time I swallowed the urge to be right and just said I was sorry. Her eyes misted up as mine did, and as we hugged, she said, "It's okay, Dad. I can tell you're really trying." So she almost lost the opportunity of apologizing because she had no clue what happened when she was out with her friend. She just wanted the simple leeway to explain herself. You know, guys, oftentimes when things happen, it's not the way that you perceive it in your mind. All right? I know our minds can be so imaginative. We can just have these creative thoughts. And then our thoughts can also run wild with things because when we don't know what's going on in the other side, I'm going to leave it as the other side, then our mind just runs crazy. So getting control of that mind is the first thing. And the second thing is always seek for understanding. Never assume. You know what they say about assume, right? Never assume something took place when it really didn't. You want to ask questions, and then you'll get the answers prayerfully that you're supposed to receive. So in this case, the child was there helping a friend. She didn't want her friend to have to end up going to the hospital. So what did she do? She stayed after to help. Yeah, she didn't call. I understand that. But at the same token, before the parent jumped on her, her dad should have just paused and say, you know what, tell me what happened. I know we had a particular time you're supposed to come home, but maybe there's something I'm missing. So that was an interesting story, just to share that you never want to jump the gun and just assume something happened when it really didn't, okay? But seek to understand first. Understand your children first before making any kind of assumptions, all right? So I saw this great quote I want to read to you. And first, let me say, parents often feel very uncomfortable when they apologize and to their children, and maybe because they feel that as parents, we're always right. We are not always right. And oftentimes, as adults, we are still learning as much as our children. Our children have even more to learn. But as adults, believe it or not, we still encounter things in our lives that we never knew, believe it or not, even in the latter years of our lives, because we don't often investigate those things that we want to learn more about. They sometimes come and hit us by surprise, right? So here's a quote by Benjamin Franklin I want to read to you. It's very short. It says, "Never ruin an apology with an excuse." Never ruin an apology with an excuse. So in summary, I'd like to tell you that there have been more there's more respect that you can actually gain by apologizing to your children and basically owning up to your mistake and try to make things better, because the way things happen between you and them the first time doesn't mean that's the way it always needs to be, right? So it's okay to apologize. Let me just share some additional things with you. What does a child learn when a parent avoids apologies? Well, apologizing means you've done something bad or you're bad. There's a feeling of shame attached, right? It's okay to damage a relationship and not acknowledge it and try to repair it, all right? Repairing it. When you apologize, you lose status. This is the thoughts of a parent, not necessarily so. Apologizing is something you wouldn't want to do unless you were forced to. No, that's not true. So wouldn't it be better to teach these lessons, which your children will learn to model and model when they get older, as far as apology is concerned? We all sometimes make mistakes and we try to make things better. Another one is we all sometimes hurt others. It is important to acknowledge when we do that and make amends. A lot of times people hurt other people. And there's a saying that I've always heard, hurt people, right? So whatever it is that you've gone through in your life, whatever, should I say, encounters that you have, you might not necessarily want to relive in your life that you wish never happened. You often turn around and you do the same thing when you become adults. That's not a good thing. When you apologize, the other person feels better about you, and you also feel better in your gut and your everything of all everything. It just makes everyone feel better overall, right? And the last one is there's no shame in apologizing. We all end up feeling better. And apologizing, it creates that forgiven spirit, and forgiven spirit, it releases the energy that your body is stored up with that's holding on to all the massive stress that you definitely do not want to have. Because you know what that stress does? It builds up and it causes your organs, it both ties in your organs, and it also festers dis-ease in the body. So we want to relinquish that. We want to apologize, we want to forgive, and we want to relinquish that. So I'd like to read a scripture to you, and you probably are very familiar with this one, but it holds true to what I spoke about tonight as far as apologizing. And it's about love. When you apologize, there is a lot of love happening with everyone, right? There's no question that you care about me and I care about you. So it's 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7, and it says, love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. Love is not jealous, it's boastful, right? Proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. So when you're getting upset at your child and you're like, no, you do it because I said so. That's not love. It says it right here in the scripture, right? It does not demand its own way. It's not irritable. It keeps no record of being wronged. So when something happens, you don't want to go back and say, you remember the 5 times you didn't come home early? That's why, that. It doesn't keep records of wrong. You correct the situation and you move forward from there, right? It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up. Love never loses faith. Wow. It's always hopeful. It endures through every single circumstances. So, if there's something that you have not been forgiven or apologizing to your children about, and maybe it's still resting on your mind right now, it could be 5 years ago, 2 weeks, 10 years, and it's heavy in your spirit, why not go to them and apologize? You will be the bigger and the better person, and in the heart of hearts, they're going to understand that mommy and daddy, they are just as vulnerable to make mistakes as I am as a child. You'll see how much further that relationship actually goes. So guys, if you like what you just heard, I'm going to encourage you to take this live and share it with your friends and family. But most of all, if you really love what you heard, because you know how I feel about that thumbs up, just hit the love button. But if you'd like to learn more about me, please log on to my website, which is holisticwellbeing.com. It's spelled with a W, WHOLELISTIC, wellbeing.com. And there you can find out why I'm so passionate about what I do. Tomorrow we'll be back again speaking from the same book with Stephen Covey, 3 Steps to a Strong Family. And we will be speaking on respecting our children. We touch a little bit on respect and what that meant as far as a relationship with parents and their children. And we're going to delve a little bit further tomorrow as it relates to our children. So guys, thank you so much for joining me. I will be back tomorrow on day 480 of doing these lives. Ms. Wanda, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for all your support. Al, it's a pleasure to see you, my friend. That's okay, Al. You can always hit the replay button and catch the beginning. I did see the last part of your comment. And anyone else that logs on later on, please type replay in the box. But don't just type replay. Please add some comments there so I know exactly what your thoughts were and what you gained from this live. It's nice to have some interaction since you guys aren't verbally able to answer me as I go along in the lives from day to day. So I'll see you guys back again here tomorrow. It's such a pleasure to be here. Please be safe. And as our president said, make sure you're using common sense. And don't be, how should I say this? Be very grateful for being in-house for the length of time that you have been. Where you're going to regret it is if you didn't use your time wisely as far as fostering a wonderful relationship with your children while you're at home. So thank you so much for joining. I'll see you guys back again here tomorrow. Have a fantastic rest of your evening. Ciao.